Hello students, welcome back to your English class. The topic that we've picked for today is a visit to Cambridge. Now, the author visits Cambridge University. Cambridge University is one of the most esteemed universities in the world. It's in UK and the author visits Cambridge University to meet someone special. And his own experience of meeting that someone special has been written in this chapter. So it's a non-fiction chapter. It's an extract from the author's book Heaven on Wheels. So the author is Firdaus Kanga and he meets Stephen Hawking. Okay, why is it so special? We'll find out. Now Stephen Hawking is one of the most spectacular scientists of our times. Yes, we lost him. We lost him 2 years back, but he's still of our times, and the discoveries that he has made, the work that he has done, the theories that he has given are uncomparable. So he sits on Isaac Newton's chair. Now, Sir Isaac Newton, again, one of the most brilliant minds that the world knows, his chair was occupied by Stephen Hawking in Cambridge. Now take a look at these pictures. You see, this is the author Firdaus Kanga. Now Firdaus Kanga has a disease. We'll discuss more about it. It's known as the brittle bones disease. The bones are not strong enough to grow or take the weight of the body. So take a look at him, then take a look at Professor Stephen Hawking. He lived from 1942 to 2018. This is him in his wheelchair again. This is Stephen Hawking. This is Firdaus Kanga in his wheelchair. Do you see some similarity between the two of them? Yes, definitely. Both of them were physically disabled. Now, what does physically disabled mean? Physically disabled is any person who cannot do or use all parts of his body as a regular human being is expected to. Now, these two connect on that level, though their streams are totally different. Stephen Hawking was an astrophysicist and Firdaus Kanga is a writer and actor, but they connected on that level, the pain that they felt due to the movement restrictions that they faced. Okay, so you can see the similarities between the two. Why should you read this chapter? This chapter is important, as I've told you many times, that whatever you have in literature is for you to learn a lesson from it, for you to understand values from it. That is what literature is for. Literature is for you to understand experiences of other people. See, English is not like other subjects. Other subjects teach you facts, figures, formulas. English teaches you values, life skills, how to live your life through these lessons that you have in your text. Okay? So you read this letter to understand difficulties that disabled people may have. Many times, you, me, we are blessed people. We have all our organs working properly. We are physically fit. So we don't realize the trauma that people who are physically disabled go through. That empathy is not inside us. To build that empathy, we are taught through these chapters. We are taught through these life experiences. And then we realize how we should be compassionate and empathetic to all the people who may face any kind of problem, right? So we should realize how we see disabled people and be more enlightened about it. And we should understand the importance of treating persons with disability with sensitivity. Now take a look at this. Do you remember her? You read a chapter about her in 4th standard. She is Helen Keller. She again was disabled, but she was the first deaf and dumb woman to finish her graduation. So disability does not stop you from achieving what you should in your life. Disability does not stop you from being the best that you are. You and me, we are all able, right? But are we as good as Stephen Hawking? Are we as good as Firdaus Kanga? Disability does not bind your mind, right? So that is what you understand from this chapter. This is the book Heaven on Wheels, from which the extract has been taken. The chapter that you're going to read has been picked up from this book. This book has been written by Firdaus Kanga. It's an autobiography of Firdaus Kanga. This is also one of the important books that have been written by Firdaus Kanga, Trying to Grow. Most of his books have been inspired by his own life. Let's learn a little bit more about the author. Firdaus Kanga is a writer and actor who lives in London. He was born in a Parsi family in Bombay in 1959 with osteogenesis imperfecta, a condition also known as brittle bones disease. This left him with several painful fractures throughout his childhood and adolescence in India. He grew up in a family of 5 in a one-bedroom Bombay apartment. He's 4 feet tall and is a writer, journalist and actor. And he's also written the movie Sixth Happiness. Now, let's understand his timeline as the author. He was born in 1960. He released his first semi-autobiographical novel, Trying to Grow, in 1990. Heaven on Wheels, the chapter that you're going to read now, that book was published in 1991. In 1992, he wrote various documentaries. Then he acted in the film Sixth Happiness. The movie that he's written, he's the actor there too. Now his genre, what is genre? The kind of writing is tragic stories, short stories and novels. Let's understand about the disease that he has before we understand the chapter. Now, brittle bones disease. A healthy bone is spongy and it has the compact bone inside. See the structure of both of them. In brittle bones disease, it is not compact inside. Okay, so when it is not so compact and it is loose, it does not take the weight. Okay, and this disorder has, the bones obviously are weak, so that the body would not grow according to age and will have constant fractures and problems, and the growth eventually will lead to such a state where the person is wheelchair ridden and cannot walk or stand. Let's read the story now. The experience of Firdaus Kanga. He says in the beginning, Cambridge was my metaphor for England. For him, nothing other than Cambridge was important in England. For him, England was Cambridge and Cambridge was England. Nothing else mattered. So that is what it means. Metaphor, as we've discussed earlier, is when you give the quality of one thing to another. So for him, England was nothing but Cambridge. And it was strange that when I left, it had become altogether something else because I had met someone there. So it became even more important for him because he got to meet the person he always wanted to meet. He was on a walking tour through Cambridge. So you see these places, many important places where you go, they have a tour. So it was a walking tour and he was on the tour that he realized that since he's here, he should meet Stephen Hawking because the guide mentioned Stephen Hawking. And what did the guide say? He said, poor man, he's quite disabled now, though he is a worthy successor of Isaac Newton, whose chair he has at university. So as I mentioned earlier, Stephen Hawking has Isaac Newton's chair. It's very esteemed and prestigious because only scientists who are considered worthy and as intelligent as Isaac Newton are given his chair. So Firdaus Kanga had quite forgotten that this brilliant astrophysicist, who's the author of The Brief History of Time and the author of The Theory of Everything, 2 best sellers ever. So Stephen Hawking has written A Brief History of Time and The Theory of Everything, and he lives here in Cambridge. So on the walking tour, all of a sudden Firdaus Kanga remembers that Stephen Hawking is right here. The thing that I wanted most in my life, that I wanted to meet him, I can do that right away. So what did he do? So as soon as the walking tour was done, he rushed to the phone booth. And he went there and he spoke to Stephen Hawking's assistant. He said, I've come in a wheelchair from India to make his case stronger. You see, he wanted to meet Stephen Hawking. And he says, I want to meet Professor Hawking. Even 10 minutes would do. So he said half an hour from 3:30 to 4 works best for him today. So finally he gets a slot in which he can go and meet Stephen Hawking. I perhaps led him to think I'd propelled myself all the way from India on my wheelchair. He says, just because I said I'm on a wheelchair and I've come from India, maybe the assistant considered me and gave me a half an hour slot with Stephen Hawking. Now he says, but when I came out of the booth, I felt weak all over. So all of a sudden, that wish of yours, the long wish that you've already always wanted, comes in front of you and it's going to be fulfilled. You become a little nervous. Growing up disabled, you get fed with people asking you to be brave. So he's saying, when I was growing up and I was disabled, people would tell me, be brave, be brave. But it wasn't like that. I had a stock of bravery, that I had a courage account. He said, I didn't have an account in which I could store bravery and courage and I could withdraw from it whenever I wanted. I would be brave if I could be, right? So he's saying people always told me to be brave as if I had a courage account and I wasn't drawing a check. I was too lazy to draw a check. That means this is somewhere you need to pay attention. This can come in reference to context. So just like you have money in the account, you withdraw. But if you don't even have money, then what? You can't withdraw anything, right? So he says, if I don't even have courage, how will I be brave? It's not that I have it in the account and I'm not drawing it, right? So he says, when I was growing up, people would say that to me. But the only thing that made me stronger, people telling me to be brave didn't make me stronger. What made me stronger? By seeing people like me being brave. Who was people like him being brave? That was Stephen Hawking. So he says he's trying to say in all these words put together that Stephen Hawking has been an inspiration for him. Because of people like Stephen Hawking, he kept on going and he kept on working hard and he never gave up. So he says that he is an inspiration for, Stephen Hawking is an inspiration for Firdaus Kanga. At this, the story of a meeting between two extraordinary people, both of them disabled or differently abled. So these days the new term that we use is differently abled, not disabled. So what do you mean by differently abled? That they are a little different in their ability than normal people. As we say now, Stephen Hawking is one of the greatest scientists of our time and he suffers from a form of paralysis that confines him to a wheelchair and allows him to speak. Now Stephen Hawking cannot even speak, only by punching buttons on a computer which speaks for him in a machine-like voice. So he punches buttons and now the technology had become a little advanced. He had, the machine could read the waves of his mind and then would translate it into voice. So he could only speak like that. And Firdaus Kanga is a writer and journalist, I already told you, and he had brittle bones and he also moves around in a wheelchair. The two great men exchanged thoughts on what it means to live life in a wheelchair and on how the so-called normal people, who are the normal people? You and me, react to disability and disabled. So this is what they are going to discuss. Finally, they meet and what's his first impression? He says, a first glimpse of him is shocking. He's like a still photograph. Why is Stephen Hawking like a still photograph? Because he cannot move. As if all those pictures of him in magazines and newspapers have turned three-dimensional. Then you see the head twisted sideways into a slump, the torso shrunk inside the pale blue shirt, the wasted legs. You look at his eyes which can speak still, but they say something. So his eyes are the only part of his body that show any kind of expression. Rest of his body is unmovable. Something huge and urgent. It's hard to tell what, but you are shaken because you've seen something you never thought could be seen, the emotions. So, Firdaus Kanga, the first thing he says to Stephen Hawking is, surely I wanted to ask after hearing his disembodied computer voice, wasn't living creatively with the reality of your disintegrating body a choice you make every day? So he says, haven't you been brave? He tells Stephen Hawking that. And Stephen Hawking says, I haven't been brave. I didn't have a choice. He says, I didn't have a choice. I had to live life like this. But Firdaus Kanga says, you could have lived life in a worse manner, but you chose to be creative. Your body was disintegrating, but you chose to live creatively. Isn't that a choice? Isn't that you being brave? But he didn't say that. He only thought about it. So he's giving Stephen Hawking credit. Obviously, you see so many disabled people around you, but do all of them make the most of them? No. But I kept quiet. He says, I felt guilty every time I spoke to him, forcing him to respond. See, he's saying, I feel guilty asking him to respond to me because it is a task for him to tap on the little switch in his hand trying to find the words on his computer. with the only bit of movement left to him, that in his long pale fingers. So he feels guilty. Why? Because when he asks Stephen Hawking a question, Stephen Hawking has to painfully press those buttons so that the computerized voice can answer. So he sees the frustration in his eyes. He can feel his anguish and pain, but he can also feel that Stephen Hawking's mind is buoyant with thoughts, that his mind is superactive. So your physical inactivity or your disability has got nothing to do with your mental fitness. So he's saying, I can see that his mind has so many thoughts, but it's just that he cannot express them the way you and me can. A lot of people seem to think that disabled people are chronically unhappy. Why should disabled people be always unhappy? They also have their joys and happinesses. They also have their achievements and failures. I know that's not true. Are you often laughing inside? So Stephen Hawking says, yes, I find it amusing when people patronize me. What is patronizing? Telling him what to do. So he, being one of the most brilliant brains in the century, he's told by people what to do. So he says, I find it very funny when people tell me what to do. And do you find it annoying when someone like me comes and disturbs your work? The answer flashes yes. And then he smiled his one-way smile, and I knew without being sentimental or silly that I was looking at one of the most beautiful men in the world. So Stephen Hawking is being sarcastic. He says, yes, I'm bothered when you come and meet me. But he gives that one-way smile because he can only smile that much. And Firdaus Kanga says that I've seen the most beautiful man in the world because his expressions, the smile that he gives, means a lot to Firdaus Kanga. What do you think is the best thing about being disabled? That is what Firdaus Kanga asks Stephen Hawking. Is there anything good about being disabled? Stephen Hawking says the same thing. He says, I don't think there's anything good about being disabled. But Firdaus Kanga says, I think you discover how much kindness there is in the world. When people be kind to you, you realize how much kindness is there. So Stephen Hawking also agrees. It was a disadvantage of his voice synthesizer that I could not convey any inflection or mood. So whatever Stephen Hawking was saying came out in a computerized voice. So Firdaus Kanga couldn't realize what mood he was in, right? You and me, when we speak, our expressions tell our mood. But that expression in the voice of Stephen Hawking is missing. Then he describes Stephen Hawking. How does he describe him? He says, before you, like a lantern whose walls are worn so thin, you glimpse only the light inside in the candescence of a man. He says, Stephen Hawking is like a lantern. You all know what a lantern is? Lantern has glass walls and a lamp inside. So he's saying the walls are the body. Okay? The body of Stephen Hawking is absolutely worn thin. There's nothing left of the body, but inside him glows a light, just like in a lantern. And what does that light reflect? It reflects the intelligence and the soul of Stephen Hawking. So he says the body is not there, it is irrelevant, but the soul is still bright and shiny. The body, almost irrelevant, exists only like a case made of shadows, so that I, although no believer in eternal souls, know that this is what each of us is, a beautiful mind, pure conscious, and everything else is accessory. What is everything? The body is an accessory, their mind and their conscious is what is more important. In the end, he asks Stephen Hawking, is there any advice you can give disabled people that might help make life better? Stephen Hawking says they should concentrate on what they are good at. They should only do things that what gives them happiness and what they are really good at. So the author says, yes, I tried to learn Spanish guitar, but I unstringed it one night because it must have frustrated him, and he must not have been good with it. So you should only try and focus on doing things that you like and enjoy doing and are good with it. Stephen Hawking says, I think things like the disabled Olympics are a waste of time. Maybe not for everyone. There are many people who want to make a living with sports. Now, he says, every time I shifted in my chair or turned my wrist to watch the time, I wanted to make every one of my 30 minutes count. Now the author goes on to ask Stephen Hawking. He says it must be a huge relief and a good feeling that you are an inspiration for people like me. Stephen Hawking says, no, it's not a relief. The author realizes, he says, of course it isn't. It's foolish of me to ask, because when your body is like a claustrophobic room, what is claustrophobic? People who are scared of small, narrow spaces. So he's saying his body has become a claustrophobic room. You want to do so many things, but you cannot because of the restrictions of the body. And the walls are growing narrower. The body is becoming worse and worse. It doesn't do much good to know that there are people outside smiling with admiration. He's saying when you are frustrated inside because of the limitations of your body, so many people admiring you does not really help you, does it? You still want to be able to do things. So he says, with admiration to see you breathing still, I was so much more than happy to have met this man. I could barely stop myself from grinning. He had finally met his inspiration and he was thrilled to have met him. So you see, Stephen Hawking is very straightforward. He's not trying to quote his emotions or feelings, right? Then he realized that his half hour was up. He says that I think I've annoyed you enough. And he says, thank you for meeting me. But Stephen Hawking says, stay, have some tea, I'll show you my garden. So Stephen Hawking takes him to his garden. He covers every inch of the garden in his motorized wheelchair. And they spend some more time together. Eventually, he leaves. He says, waves to Stephen Hawking. And he watches Stephen Hawking, an embodiment of my bravest self, the one I was moving towards, the one I'd realized in for so many years alone. I knew that my journey was over, but only for now. His journey in Cambridge was over. So he's become even more braver, even more emboldened by meeting Stephen Hawking. So Stephen Hawking has been a constant inspiration. Also, after meeting him, he feels even more strong, right? So he's saying my journey in Cambridge is over for now, but I'm more emboldened and more strong for my future endeavors. I hope you all learned a lot from this chapter and you've understood what the chapter wants to teach you, that to be empathetic to people with disabilities and do not judge them because they too have creative minds, maybe better than your own, right? We'll discuss the question answers and your doubts in the group now. Thank you, children.